Today in this video, we will discuss the life of Malcolm X on Black History Month and what he meant to our history. Hi, my name's Travis. Welcome to this channel. Let's get right into it. Malcolm X was born Malcolm Little in Omaha, Nebraska in 1925. His parents were followers of Pan-African activist Marcus Garvey. His family was constantly harassed by the Ku Klux Klan, and his house was burnt down when he was 4 years old. His family moved to Michigan, where they were harassed by a group called the Black Legion, an offshoot of the Ku Klux Klan. 4 of Malcolm's uncles were murdered by white supremacists. His father died when he was 6 years old. His father's death was ruled a streetcar accident, but his mother believed he was murdered by the Black Legion. When Malcolm was just 13 years old, his mother was committed to a mental institution, and all of her children were separated into foster care. Malcolm was a good student, although he dropped out of school after a teacher told him he would not amount to anything, and there was no way that he could become a lawyer by being a black boy. He spent a couple years in Michigan and in Boston, and at the age of 18, he moved to Harlem, New York. Malcolm became involved in gambling, robbery, drug dealing, and pimping. At the age of 21, he committed robberies with a gang in Boston. He was arrested and he was sentenced to 8 to 10 years in prison. And it was there in prison that started Malcolm's transformation. In prison, his siblings started writing him and telling him about the Nation of Islam and their powerful leader, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. This nation promoted black independence and demoted and rejected white people being superior. Muhammad taught his followers a form of separation from the white people. Although Malcolm was hostile against any type of religion, he joined the Nation of Islam. Malcolm started reading books daily and writing Elijah Muhammad on a regular basis. Muhammad wanted all of his followers to change their last names. He felt all of their last names were the last names of the people that were enslaved by, their masters. So therefore, Malcolm Little became Malcolm X. After being paroled, Malcolm visited Elijah Muhammad in Chicago. In the following year, he was given the title of Assistant Minister at Temple No. 1 in Detroit. He later established Temple No. 2 in Boston and Temple No. 12 in Philadelphia. Then finally, he was selected to run Temple No. 7 in Harlem, New York. Malcolm attracted a host of followers who started signing up and being members of the Nation of Islam just because of his mere presence to their temple. The FBI started to watch Malcolm due to his suddenly larger-than-life profile. In 1957, Malcolm intervened on a police station who had arrested 2 Nation of Islam members, supposedly beat them, and refused them to have lawyers. Malcolm went down there with at least 4,000 members of the Nation of Islam. He demanded and was granted to see the individuals and provide them with the help that they needed. When the police saw how Malcolm single-handedly controlled a crowd of 4,000 people. They became shook because they realized that one man should not have that type of power. In 1958, Malcolm married Betty Shabazz, and they had 6 daughters together. Malcolm started receiving a lot of exposure on TV due to all of his interviews and public speaking engagements, and he had started becoming an international figure. Tensions then started to grow between Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X. When Muhammad refused to retaliate on police who went into a Nation of Islam meeting and paralyzed an individual and killed another, Malcolm wanted a response from Elijah Muhammad, and Elijah Muhammad gave no response. He did not retaliate. Malcolm started desiring to work with civil rights and other black organizations, and Elijah Muhammad also disagreed with that as well. Then in 1963, President John F. Kennedy was killed. He was assassinated. Malcolm X's response to JFK being killed led to him being silenced by the Nation of Islam for a period of 90 days. In 1964, Malcolm announced his break from the Nation of Islam. Malcolm also said that he didn't really leave the movement. He was forced out of the Nation of Islam by Elijah Muhammad. Malcolm then began talking about Elijah Muhammad and all of the sisters that were in the Nation of Islam, 6 or 7 that had babies by him while he was married. And this did not sit well with Elijah Muhammad or the rest of the Nation of Islam. Malcolm founded the Muslim Mosque, which was a religious organization, and an African American Unity non-religious organization as well. Malcolm met Martin Luther King just once, and they were able to hash out their differences and discuss the possibility of working together in the near future. Malcolm X then went to the Mecca, and there he discovered Muslims of all shapes and colors. And those Muslims there looked at if you were a Muslim or not, and not the color of your skin. And this moved Malcolm X. Malcolm then visited Africa twice, where high-profile presidents offered Malcolm high positions in their organization. Malcolm turned them all down. The Nation of Islam was still upset because they didn't take lightly to his remarks about Elijah Muhammad or his remarks about the Nation of Islam after departing. Threats of Malcolm's life started coming in. His car was bombed and his house was burnt to the ground. But this didn't stop Malcolm, because on February 21st, 1965, he still went to give a speech that he was supposed to give for the African American Unity non-religious organization that he had created. And while giving that speech, people burst into that speech and shot Malcolm X 21 times. Malcolm X was 39 years old. And even to this day, there's questions about his murder, because between the FBI and the police and the Nation of Islam, they felt all three had a hand in on the assassination of Malcolm X. Malcolm X was buried in Harlem, New York, and he had a funeral of at least 30,000 people. And that is the incredible story of an incredible man, Malcolm X. If you liked anything I said, hit the like button, comment, subscribe. Anybody you want to hear about in Black History Month this month, let me know. Leave it in the comments. I'll be glad to do it. And until next time, happy Black History Month.